Hey there. Okay, thanks for coming back. I really appreciate it. And, both of you, I really appreciate it. Hi there. What? Hi, I have no idea how to start these damn things. Thanks for coming along. Oh, this is a squeaky chair, I've noticed. I might change it. Hi guys, thanks for coming back. If you've been here looking at some of the other videos, if you're new to this, please have a look at the other ones, like them if you like them, leave comments, share what you're into, and keep watching. I'm up to the L's. This is only in the alternative indie section, of course, and I've only got 3 CDs. They're dual case CDs, and I'm starting off with Lambchop. So Lambchop is an interesting, I don't really know much about them other than, I saw this cover. I think I bought it based on the cover. I thought this looked interesting. The album's called Nixon, as you can see. I think it's based on a place as opposed to the president, but don't quote me on that. And Lambchop is full of, strings and sort of, the lead singer, Kurt Wagner, is a multi-instrumentalist. There's a lot of those in my collection, but also it brings in a lot of people. I was just looking at it before, and his voice stands out quite pronounced in the mix, so you've got to like the voice, I suppose. I find it quite a warm, comforting sort of voice, a bit like Bill Callahan. I've had far more Bill Callahan albums, and this I just picked up, and it's along the same lines, so it has got that kind of Americana, folky vibe, but with all the different players, like there is a string section, an orchestra that's brought in on a few tracks, but also, the list is like 7 or 8 players of multi-instruments throughout the whole album. So it's quite rich and dense in terms of the instrumentation, but his vocals are definitely up in the mix and very clear lyrics. So if you're into lyrics, it's one of those kinds of albums. I've mentioned in the past that I'm very much into the whole sort of music mixing in with the lyrics. So I guess I respond to instrumentation first, the lyrics sort of secondary. The voice itself can sort of play into making an album really great if you really like the voice. Again, that's a real personal preference thing. But I really enjoy his voice, and I really like listening to the lyrics. So kind of it's got that kind of singer-songwriter feel to it, but of course with all the lush production behind it. So a worthwhile album, Nixon. So Lambchop, yeah, look out for it too. It's quite a cool cover, and that's how I got into that one. Next, is just the only other L's in my alternative indie is Loose Fur, which is a project that is it's Jim O'Rourke working with Jeff Tweedy from Wilco. So I've already mentioned Jim O'Rourke, and I did check and look up that he did play with Sonic Youth for a while. So Jim O'Rourke was in Sonic Youth for a bit, and I think I wasn't 100% sure on that when I mentioned it when I was talking about Jim O'Rourke. But he is one of those instrumentalists that kind of turns up and plays all sorts of things with different people. It's, as the sort of the cover implies, it's from Drag City. It's kind of, I think it's just self-titled, Loose Fur. So there's no title on there. It's got an interesting back cover. I should probably show that, because it's kind of like it's like the cover art is the back of the painting, the stapled down canvas, and they've crossed out a few names of the different titles of the tracks. Again, they play a mix of different instruments. There's another person in there I'm not so familiar with, so it's just a trio. And the third person is, just bear with me, drum roll, Glenn Kotcher, and I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's Kotche. I'm not familiar with him. Obviously I am with Jeff Tweedy and Jim O'Rourke. So what they've done is they've kind of put their mugshots in there, as it were, and then of course they line up what they're playing alongside each track. So there's their mugshots and then what they're actually contributing to. So a mix of percussion, keyboards, guitars, and I would say it's got a lo-fi feeling without being terribly lo-fi. It seems like I've got a lot of Americana. I've actually, when we get to country, is it Country World Folk or Folk World Country? I don't know how it's catalogued, but I think it might be F for Folk World and Country. I've sort of mixed those together, and Wilco turns up there, I believe. So yeah, I'm starting to question my cataloguing of my collection, because this is very much kind of got an alt country. Well, I guess that's why it's under alternative indie. But then where do you really put these things? Because it isn't just that kind of country twang, and that's an interesting conversation too of what is country. I prefer alt country Americana as opposed to traditional country music. But in my country collection, I do have the likes of Hank Williams and Johnny Cash. And I mean, those are more country singers known to be country music stars. But what I don't have are the big names that are more contemporary, like Garth Brooks, Shania Twain. A friend of mine once said those are hat acts, i.e. cowboy hat wearing acts, like big stadium acts. Now that's not, I think they meant that in a pejorative way. Everyone has their own personal taste when it comes to music. I don't want to be bagging other people's preferences for music. But that kind of country, the big hat, the big hair kind of country, is not really for me. But then I am into Dolly Parton. I'm into Willie Nelson. I don't have any Dolly Parton actually, but I do respect her. And then, it's just not a well-formed traditional country collection that I've got, but it really veers off quite dramatically into the alt country folk, contemporary folk, the Bonnie Prince Billies, Bill Callahan, Wilco. That's more my preference, and I guess I feel like it's easy to lump that together and call it Americana, because it allows for the different ways they use instruments and keyboards and synthesizers and sort of a little bit of glitchy stuff coming through, as opposed to what would be the more country sound of perhaps violins, well, not violins, fiddles, what am I trying to think, banjo, and guitar-driven country rock, that sort of thing. So that's not, that's just a personal preference. And this is another Loose Fur album. It's very similar to the other one. This one's actually called Born Again in the USA, so it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, riffing on Bruce Springsteen. So it's got that kind of rock sound, but it's worth investigating. Loose Fur, it's sort of a project, a side project for these guys. I don't know if they did any more. I've just got the two. And as you can probably tell throughout my collection, I tend to go for more than just one album by somebody. If I'm interested in them, I may take a risk and just buy that second album. These days, of course, I can look into it and I can go back and go, well, should I get this by, say, Beck? I have plenty of Beck, but has he done something recently and I've sort of not paid attention? Should I grab that? And so there's always the opportunity to go back and look for musicians that you enjoyed an album, for some reason never bought a second or third album, and then go back and rediscover them. So Loose Fur may have more albums out there, I'm not sure. But that's it, that's ours. M's are coming up, that is a big section. So please come back and have a look at the M's. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe. I think that would help tremendously to keep me motivated and keep me going. So thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.